Hello engravers, this is Justin here. This is another video for the June Engraving Challenge, and we're looking at Amy Beach's Romance, and we're looking at a submission by Cody Myre. Just to start out really quick, here's the full score with the piano and violin, and then we also have the violin part here. Close this, close the tabs there. So one thing I can say right off the top, we'll just talk about layout first. This violin part is very spaced out. It almost seems unnecessarily so, because you have this spread across 3 pages here. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit and take a look at what we're looking at here. So we have 7mm is our main staff size for the part, and then almost 30mm between each staff, each system. So that's a lot of space. Granted, it's all even, which is nice, but we could have fit a lot more, I think, in terms of number of systems per page or something like that. What do we have here? 4, 5, 6, 7. Like 7 is a really low number. You really want to get it above 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So that would be really tight on 2 pages. It could be done. Maybe if you dropped a system here, maybe 1 or 2 systems, and then you totally could fit this onto 2 pages, and I would definitely recommend that. Other than that, the layout seems fine. Other than, the density is sometimes inconsistent. This system, for example, is a bit loose compared to this one, but sometimes you can't really get around that. And just one comment on this title page. I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to do here. I mean, it feels like you're trying to be more modernist with the right aligned. This is not the type of piece that deserves to be treated modernist in a modernist style, so I would not do that. If you're insisting on a title page, center text is always better. It's more traditional, and this is a more traditional style piece. Which I find it kind of interesting that you're doing the right aligned text and then still insisting on the original Mrs. Beach. So that's not very modernist either. So yeah, be careful with that. I wouldn't use that attribution anymore. This title feels large to me, just relative. So does the tempo. The tempo is really large. And also this tempo marking here is in the wrong font. It really needs to match the font that you use here. I don't know exactly what font this is. It looks somewhat like a relative of Minion, but I can't be sure. And then this was a finale score, so it's got some finale isms that I can just spot right away. The main thing is how it treats ties versus slurs. So you can see, let me find a good example. I mean, this one's pretty good. You can see right here, this tie is really thin and narrow. What I mean by narrow is this distance here is like a half a space to a space only, when the curvature could be a little bit more exciting or accentuated. And then one thing finale does is the curvature over the entire arc is consistent. That's just a style thing that the programmers added long time ago in finale, so you can't really get around that easily. But just keep in mind that that's not ideal the longer the slur gets, especially something this long like this, because then this end of the slur gets a little bit too thin and it gets hard to see. That's really just a nitpicky thing, and you can modify that here and there. And you can mess with your settings if you so choose. I'm just going to point out a couple very detail-y things because this is about engraving, right? So the curvature on this is not ideal. If you're going to go all the way here, you should go all the way to the bottom there. It's not a great curve. Let me do that again. Curve to there. I'm doing this with a mouse, so it's a little tricky. All the stuff that we talked about with the original score, where you're splitting the beams here, I would definitely do that. And also, for some reason, your slur here is above, even though you're upstemming the B. So that should really be below. Yeah, in general, I think the slurs are a little bit, the formula for how you get the arc of the slurs seems a little bit strange, which leads to weird situations like this, where this is really thin and all of a sudden it jumps out, where it needs to be a bit more graceful. I don't really know how to describe it better than that. This is something you would want to avoid right here. That little wedge. What you can do, let me see if I can draw this sufficiently. I can use my line tool. What you want to do is to have your beam hit the very bottom of the line like that. See, and then fill in that space. That would be the space of the beam, so that you don't actually have a wedge, and the beam straddles that middle line. So it'd be exactly the same right here. And that's the standard practice for all beams that are above, way above the staff, where these stems get really long and they have to extend all the way down to the middle line. So wherever you have that, so you got it here too, right there. So I would definitely do the same idea. And the advantage of that is it keeps all these angles consistent, which is kind of nice. Makes it more pleasing to look at. So you see right here, it's done automatically. There's no wedge there. It looks like you've copied some of the same style things, where this is, written out as words. These are written as italics. It's fine if that's what you want to commit to your house style. It's okay. But it could be done differently. All right. I'm going to go to the next page over here. Again, like I said, it's very spaced out, and it feels, it feels almost wasteful to have so much white space in between these systems. I would probably get rid of this, the header. It's not helpful. Instead, what you should have there is the word violin, because usually in parts, your part name goes up top there. Another really subtle thing is these page numbers are in serif font or sans serif font for some reason, when they should be a serif font matching all the rest of your serif fonts. And there, you got violin here, which is good. It's very common to see these in bold, but that's not actually a rule. It depends on the publisher. Right here, I probably would shove these dynamics up a bit. The agitato has nothing to do with this hairpin. So I'm going to draw a symbol like this, and that's a move up symbol, essentially. That's a really nifty proofreading symbol that I use all the time. You can see here that you've done the triplets. You've actually written them out. That's very good. I like that a lot. Nice work on the sol G and sol D there. Again, that slur is the wrong side. Not sure why that happened. This is good. So here you copied what they did in the original edition with the one trill sign. I would definitely smash that apart and make it into several trills. Trill like that. Trill like that. That's hard to do with the mouse. Really subtle thing right here. That slash there in the grace notes, you do not need it because it's 2 grace notes together. The slash is only required with a single eighth note to differentiate it from a measured grace note. It's practically unheard of to have measured grace notes when they're in multiples, so that's why you never need to put it in there. This is a good example of the 8VA. I believe this is a little bit different from the original, but you can check on that later. But this is good. It keeps the one section that's really high under the 8 and the rest is at pitch. The loco is totally unnecessary. I maybe could justify it by the A's being right next to each other, but you've got this bracket here. So I think it's totally clear without it. This beam is a little too short. If you'll notice that's an A, so that actually needs to go all the way down to here, to the bottom, to the A below. It's got to be 1 octave, and then you should have a beam. I mean, it's functionally the same as the beam sitting on straddling the middle line, but it's got to be angled too because it's going up like that, just a little bit. This is good. Written, molto. That's all fine. Some of these dynamics are a little bit low. I would probably pull these up a little bit. Those two right there specifically. And this slur is a little wonky. Yeah, a couple of these slurs, like we mentioned before, what you really want to do when you have a tie and a slur like this at the same time is you want to sort of match their arc. Essentially, you want to match them so they kind of look unified. That's not really a content comment. It's more of a aesthetics thing. But you definitely want them to match in terms of the arc. All right. This is good. I'm going to... So other than, having this on 3 pages, I think is not necessary. You could very easily condense this into 2 pages. But other than that, this is actually pretty good. There's just a few little tweaky things here and there. Let's have a look at the piano part. So some of the same comments apply that we had in the other the violin part. Smaller title. Tempo is too large. Different name. Same stuff. This is good with the smaller violin. I just want to check on the size of these. So we have 7mm there, which is great. And then 5mm there. So that mimics the original almost pretty much identically. So that's great. And it's very readable, which is very nice to see. Starts in bass clef. Like I said, all the standard things with the breaking of the beams, I would definitely adhere to that. Especially, it's interesting down here how you did actually break the syncopations to show the middle of the bar, which that's definitely a valid choice to make. You did it here, but you didn't do it here in this measure. So I would definitely tie this across here, have 2 there, break that beam, and you have this as its own beam, own beat. All right, very good. Again, traditional pedal markings, it's just matching the old edition. It's fine. It's a choice to make. Some of the same comments, just more beams being broken. This is all good. You're breaking all of your syncopations, which I think is fine. So this is a little annoying thing. So right here, you did break the 8ths. And same right here. You broke those 8ths, but you didn't break them up top. So you need to be consistent. Choose which type of rhythm you are actually going to use, and then use it everywhere. My preference has always been to break those eighths. Subtle thing, you got another wedge there. Those are easy to fix. Got a really subtle wedge right there. I don't think it's as big a deal. One thing I would definitely comment on, and this is pervasive with finale engraving, is your staff lines are very small in terms of thickness. Especially since you're using quite a hefty font. I think this is Bravura, but I can't tell right off the top of my head. If I find a flat here, I can tell you, because usually... Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Bravura, because it looks a lot like Bravura. So, Bravura pairs really well with a thicker staff line, because the symbols themselves are so thick. So, in general, this feels a little... it just doesn't look quite right. And I definitely would have a slightly thicker staff size, slightly thicker stem length, and then the bar lines should be even thicker than the staff lines. And it's very similar to what your proportions are here already, just up them all so that it matches the weight of the symbols. And probably the same with the slurs and ties. They're a little bit thin compared to the weightiness of these accidentals in the notes themselves. This is all good. Nice use of masking right there. Very nice. This one, I probably actually would do that stems up. That one, I'll mark that. Stems up and then do this. Don't have to. This is right as it is. Depends on how strict you want to get with the B's. Very nice job of masking this eighth note there. I think that's really elegant. That's well done. I hope I didn't skip a page here. I might have. Yeah, so here it is again. This where you actually broke the eighths there when you didn't before. So you got to make sure you're consistent there. This hairpin needs to be centered. See how it's not quite centered there in between? You really got to be careful with that with piano music. That collision right there, I'm not super okay with that when you have the room to get that arc around that natural. This is a really subtle thing here. You need to make sure that natural snuggles up against that other natural. There's no reason to have so much space there. Again here, stems up. That's an option, but I'm going to mark it anyway. This is a little bit close here. There's no reason to get so close to the bar line. You could probably cut it off right about there. Next page. This is tricky. This slur needs to get down here. It's just like in the part. You need to get it down to the note head there. And this just looks like a mistake. That needs to get up. Up, back up there. Good. This clef change is a little bit awkward. I think this was in the original this way, so it's fine. I think we can get away with it. I wish there was just a better option here. This natural or this sharp here is way too far. Not sure why that is. That needs to get over. Another subtle wedge there that I would try and get rid of. And this is a little bit subtle too. I would have this beam here extend down so that the top beam is resting on the line, just so you can get a little bit more length on this this staff here. So move this whole thing down a bit. That's a really subtle detail, but you know, most of this is done really well. So it's the little stuff that starts to pop out when there's not much to talk about in terms of big stuff. Probably would move this guy to over here. You could probably get away with moving it all the way to the front of the system. Either way. This isn't quite right here. These should be down stem. And as a result, this slur needs to go up top. I'm not sure if this entire figure was slurred in the original. That kind of makes sense to me that the whole thing would be slurred. And that even if that's not the original, that's the intent of the figure. So I would definitely editorialize that a little bit. Same here. And you did mark the triplets here, which is good. Then you didn't mark them here. And I think that's okay just because it's the same figure with different notes, so it's very understandable what's going on. And then you didn't mark triplets here. Again, it's probably okay, but then you marked it here, which is quite nice, because then it changes. I think it's fine. The only difference I would make is probably mark this first measure with 3s. All right, let's keep going. This is pretty good. You got a couple of these stem directions are wrong here. These need to go up. I think that's also because of the original flipped those, but yeah, they got to go up. Talked about the whole notes in another voice. Your choice. That's what I would do. This is good. Nice use of the portato. I probably would try and get this all the way up there, that little slur. Very nice use of masking here on the PP. It's very nice, but it's probably not needed. And I see what you were trying to do. You were trying to align these together. But what you should do is put the P here. And then have your hairpin. That looks terrible. Let me do that again. Have your hairpin actually further up here. So then you can have this beam, which you actually reduced in length to be full size. Couple more pages here. We have the violin part. I actually have to go over here. So this is an important point that I want to make here. Here you've used 8VA in the violin part in the piano score, but you did not use it in the part. You didn't use that 8VA until you got down here at 95. That's a no-go. You have to match what's in the part with what's in the score. And the reason for that is when you're in rehearsal, what's going to happen is the pianist will say, let's start at that trill with the 8VA, and the violinist will have no idea what the pianist is referring to. So you have to match, even in situations like this, you have to match what the part and the score have. There's a few limited exceptions, but this isn't one of them. There's no reason to use 8VA here, other than that was what was in the original, which I believe that's what it was. But since you did change it in the part, you need to change it in the score as well. And you're not saving space here. Given the layout that you've chosen, there's no reason to not just have these written up as where they are. I don't know if I mentioned it before. This slur should probably be up top. Again, get rid of that slash. That slur is a little bit close there. And what I would do with this crescendo is definitely do a hairpin. It's only 3 measures. It's not very long, so I would just put a nice big hairpin there. It makes it far more feels far more modern in an addition. But it also makes that crescendo more conspicuous and obvious. This is pretty good. Yeah, and everything's in triplet mode at this point, which is fine. If you really wanted to, you could start marking them when you have triplet and duple together, like right here. But you can get away with not doing that for the most part. Nice break of the beam here. That's good. And this is mostly just copying the original verbatim. So all my comments on the original would probably apply here too. This guy here, that should be only 2 beams, not 3. Sempre poco a poco written, Alfine. It's fine. Yep. I don't know if I'd start the 8VA here. Having the double dotted line is a little bit weird, but it's okay. I understand what you're trying to do. And I don't remember if in the original this is supposed to be a 2 hands arpeggio. And you might need to check on that. But yeah, this is good. Nice use of portato here. All the staccatos and slurs are pretty much in the right place. If you could try, I would try and get one of those so it goes all the way into that space. But that can get a little awkward sometimes, so it's okay if you don't. Yeah. Yeah, this is very nice. And the spacing and the density is similar to the original. What you did is instead of doing 5 systems per page, you did the thing where you have 3 measures per system, which gives you approximately the same amount of density, but it's just condensing it horizontally rather than vertically. So you'll notice it's the same number of pages as the original, which is fine. This system here might be the only one that's a little bit loose compared to the others. But I don't think there's much you can do about that. This one as well is very loose because it's only 2 measures when everything else around it is 3. But again, there isn't really a good solution out of this because this piece is pretty consistent with its density. Yep. All right. I think that's all the comments I have for this one. So thank you very much for submitting, and we'll see you at the next one.